Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast. My name is Rich, and I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, I have the one, the only, the lovable Chris. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good.
Good.
Playing lots of Halo.
Yeah, you and me both, but not together. You don't play Halo with me.
My
It's very
timing is
sad.
always weird. I know. I
Mhm.
got a new headset coming, so hopefully that'll be easier.
Oh, that's good. So for tonight, we have Phil Spencer has a lot of thoughts and feelings about a lot of different things. Xbox has got a little bit of news that they have been so kind as to share with us around cloud gaming. And we've had quite a few launches over the last week, 2 weeks, and a lot of them not so good. So we are going to talk about what is going on in the world of, the Battlefield 2 launch, the GTA launch, et cetera, et cetera. Along with that, of course, it wouldn't be the news if we didn't cover Activision Blizzard at some point. Bobby K seems to have got himself in even more hot water as of recently. So we are going to be covering that a little bit. So to start, be sure to visit our website at campfiregamingpodcast.com. There you will find links to our Discord as well as our social medias, including our Twitter at CampGamePod and our Instagram at Campfire Gaming Podcast. If you are viewing us live, not live, if you are viewing recording from YouTube, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as it does help us out a lot and we greatly appreciate it. So, Chris, you and me tonight, we're going to talk some Phil Spencer. It's kind of weird doing this without Matt because he's kind of the ex-bro of the family.
Yeah.
But an interview was just done not too long ago with Phil Spencer, and he has had a lot of thoughts and feelings to share about various different topics of what's going on around the Xbox curtain. One of those things being the Elder Scrolls 6. He talked a little bit about what they're doing with Starfield. He's talking a little bit about what they're going to do with the Elder Scrolls 6 and how they're going to do bring that into the Xbox family, and what it's going to do for other franchises. I don't know. Did you have a chance to catch any of these interviews that he's been doing around the circuit?
I've seen bits and pieces. I've honestly, unfortunately, only been able to read most of it. But yeah, lots of little tidbits. But I'll be honest, not a ton of it is super surprising, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I kind of feel like we all, more or less, as he announced, the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a PC Xbox exclusive.
Right.
As of right now.
Right. As he kind of states that he wants this to be like a full, complete package. And I think that's what a lot of Xbox is kind of going for nowadays is, they really want to encompass as many platforms as they can, be it cloud, be it the Xbox, be it PC. They want to cover their bases and make sure everything is across the board so that they can basically get the games out to as many people as humanly possible. And it sounds like Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield will be no exception to that. And it sounds like, they're really excited about Starfield. He claims that it's going to be like, to him, it's going to be one of the biggest launches of 2022. Are you excited for Starfield? We haven't seen much about it.
No, we haven't seen much, but I'm so pumped for it. I'm really hoping the Game Awards next month we'll get to see some actual game footage, or at least a good trailer or something for it.
Yeah, I would be kind of surprised if we don't. It's weird because the Game Awards is now becoming like E3 Part 2 almost.
Right.
The December E3. So we're getting, we end up getting a lot of game trailers and kind of some behind the scenes looks or some interviews, or along with the awards that go out at the end of the year. So I'd say be sure to tune into that if you're interested in possibly seeing something about the Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield. Probably more so Starfield. It sounds like Elder Scrolls 6 is not that far along. Okay, well, with that, Phil Spencer has been talking a little bit about his successor. Now, that's nothing to be scared about right now, because Phil Spencer doesn't really have any plans on leaving anytime soon. At least it doesn't sound like they're even trying to kick him out even. Really, this is kind of a, they're talking more so about Phil Spencer taking somebody as a protege, taking somebody under his wing so that, he can find himself like when he does eventually retire, and I'm sure, like all of us do, he will. He can leave, Xbox and Microsoft kind of in good hands on his under his watch, right? Is that kind of
Yeah.
what you gathered from what they're talking about
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, which Phil, I'm on Twitter. You can find me pretty easily. I'm perfect for it. Yeah, I mean, you kind of for someone of his importance at this point, I mean, it's kind of good to have some type of succession plan down the road because I mean, in all honesty, he could end up just saying, "You know what? I need something new to challenge me." Because he has done so ridiculously well with Microsoft and the Xbox platform.
Mhm.
Or they even look at him for something higher up in Microsoft itself. So it'd be
Yeah.
good to know that they have some type of plan in place so we don't end up with, I don't know, let's pick a name out of the top of my head, Bobby K that would replace him.
Oh man, there's gonna be so many people who hate you just for saying that.
I know, right? Even suggesting such a thing.
I'm pretty sure Matt just punched his monitor after listening to that right there.
That's what he gets for not being here.
How
He could have
dare
filtered
you?
me.
Yep. Um, but I mean, even if he doesn't plan on retiring at Microsoft, I
Yeah.
mean, I can imagine at some point Phil might be looking at, just going and doing something else, right?
Hmm.
He's been with Microsoft for 3 decades now. That's a long time to be
It
with
is
a
a
company.
super long
And
time.
he's moved up the chain pretty far. And
Hmm.
so I'm sure that they're at some point, he wants to get somebody in, train them how to be him, because that's what we want, right?
Right.
We don't necessarily want Phil Spencer to leave. He's been great. He's been exceptional for Microsoft and Xbox. So um but I can imagine that at some point either he'll retire or he'll want to leave, go to another company, or start his own thing. Like that,
Right.
the possibilities are endless for that guy. He's got quite the resume. So I can imagine him finding something fun and challenging in the future.
Right. And he's pretty popular within the industry at this point. I mean, maybe not so much with Sony these days, but even them, they seem to be everyone seems to be pretty friendly and everyone seems to have a very positive opinion of him.
Right. Yeah, he does have very good rapport with a lot of industry figureheads. So, with that though, he did talk, kind of segueing a little bit. He talked a little bit about his feelings about NFTs as well. I mean, we've had a couple of episodes now where NFTs were mentioned, with a lot of publishers kind of moving into the NFT space. They're getting, they're foaming at the mouth to get their hands
Hmm.
on NFTs so that they can kind of, what we're guessing is, shove this as another sort of microtransaction or loot box payment plan of some kind, any way that they can exploit it.
Right.
But Phil's thoughts on this now is that there's a lot of speculation on what is going to happen. As we've noted in the past, the publishers, the people in charge of these publishing companies like EA and Ubisoft and such, they're really excited about NFTs, but they don't really know why. Like they
Right.
don't really know what they're going to do with it yet, but they are very excited as a monetary option. So when Phil started talking about NFTs, um, he mentioned that there's a lot of creativity involved in it, but he does recognize that it could be exploitative. So I mean, he's calling balls and strikes on this one. He
Yeah.
says like NFTs aren't bad, but people can take full advantage of it. So it sounds like he's kind of not really sure how to feel about it at the moment.
He wants to see how it goes a little bit more, which it does make sense. I mean, it's it's
Hmm.
it's better off going this way than promising something grand to everybody and not following through on it, or something happens and it's like, well, no, wait, that ends up costing, this service because we tried this or something. So
Yeah,
I'd rather they stay focused on what they're supposed to be doing.
right. And I mean, he has advocated that they are going to take action against exploitive behavior with
Hmm.
NFTs. So that was the gist of what he felt about that. not exactly like a hot take or anything like that. It was a
No.
very almost seemed like a very like common sense sort of approach. Like, yeah, they're cool, but they can be used against us. So we'll have to see what that how that goes in the future. Moving on from that, we have some thoughts that he has had about game emulation. Always kind of an interesting gray area when talking about game emulation. Um, we've had Nintendo has been a really big proponent of cracking down on websites trying to release ROMs, and their thought they have their own sort of opinion on what emulation should be and how they handle emulation on their own. I mean, we had the Nintendo Switch Online releasing a whole bunch of Nintendo 64 titles to
Yeah.
really rough
Yeah. A little bit.
emulation. Yeah, really bad emulation that causes a
Hmm.
bunch of problems on the games that they're trying to emulate. But Phil kind of basically says the following. He says, "I think we can learn from history how we got here through the um the creativity. I love he says I love it in music, I love it in movies and TV, and there's positive reasons for gaming to want to follow it." Um so I'm wondering if he means more so like emulating practices or emulating like I don't know what he means so much by that, but
I A part of me thinks he's kind of talking about preserving the legacy of games, because there are so many games that we can't play anymore because modern systems just don't handle it. And I guess it is kind of relevant at this point because Microsoft isn't doing backwards compatibility, isn't adding new games to backwards compatibility anymore. So
right.
there's still a bunch of games that we can't play. And it kind of sucks. There are a handful of really good ones out there that would be fantastic to be able to load up on the Xbox or and play right now, or even on the PC, but PCs are just too powerful these days to be able to handle those old school games. So I'm sure that's he's looking for some kind of method to take those older games and preserve them in some way, shape, or form so that people could still enjoy them, much like, old vinyl records or film or VHS tapes, because there's still a bunch of them out there that way.
Right. He's talked a little bit about um his thoughts on how as an industry we can work towards legal emulation.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's a gray area. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting open source projects and software out there for supporting these kinds of, emulation so that you can play these older games. There's Xbox emulators for virtually any console that you could think of that has
Right.
ever existed. If it was on a processor, somebody's probably emulated it at some point. um, so it's interesting that you kind of bring up that emulation and PCs becoming, like far too powerful because, there's a lot of software to help like, you have, for example, software like DOSBox and things like that helps you play things like those old Duke Nukem games. I mean, I have that too. Like, I think it's wonderful to be able to go back and play those. And I think one of the things that's really beneficial for preserving that legacy of where we've been with all these games is that it is a really good learning experience. If you're
Hmm.
kind of a younger game developer and you've never had a chance to play like, say Halo CE, or you've never played, like the original Quake or something like that. It's good to go back and kind of see like the trend from where
Right.
things were to where they are. I mean, you kind of go back and look at Quake. With the release of Quake, kind of inspired where Half-Life went. And, there was a nice iteration from Quake to Half-Life, Half-Life to, um, probably led into Halo to some degree, and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's very nice to be able to go back and look at that stuff.
Well, and it's a tough area because you for while the emulation itself can be done, you do and you want to find legal ways to do it as much as possible. But if you're like a game, and I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but it will be stuck in my head until I can finally find a way to play it. Simpsons Road Rage
Okay. The
would be,
arcade. Or no,
yeah,
that's the N64, right?
that's the, well, no, it was a Xbox. It was OG Xbox.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I mean, it's a crazy taxi ripoff. Let's be straightforward on that part. But I have such fond memories of the game itself, and I would love to play it again. But even if someone made an emulator that was capable of playing the game, there's not a really a legal way to get your hands on it anymore because licensing issues have gotten in the way over this time period. So
Right.
it's tough to try to, like, how do you toe that line of making it all work?
Yeah. And I think for the most part, I mean, so if, if you, the listener, are curious, there are. Let me just see if I can find one right off the top. Is like a So the emulators themselves are not illegal.
No, they are
It's
not.
like it's the ROMs and how you obtain the games themselves is how it gets to be a pretty legal gray area.
Yeah, it's tough.
Oh, I haven't run this one before, but XEMU, it's original Xbox emulator.
I think I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Has varying degrees of playability on a lot of different Xbox titles. And that's kind of the thing that you have to deal with when you're working with these emulators is, yeah, like a lot of these are hobbyists, people
Hmm.
who do it for free because they, as much as the rest of us, want to see a lot of these games preserved and playable and all that. So they take the time to research, how to create an emulation of the Xbox hardware and give us the ability to do that, which is great. But
It's fantastic.
yeah, so getting the ROMs is the hard part. So if
Exactly.
right. I mean, it would be nice if Phil could help us find a way to make that a much more
Yeah.
streamlined legal process. I mean,
I
I've
just
I've whined about it before about Nintendo. I was just like, you
They're the
know,
worst at it.
right, like, but they have such a good library
Oh
to
yeah.
like they have such an extensive catalog that like why don't they just have their Nintendo online service have like, their whole library of Nintendo
Hmm.
64 games. Like that would be absolutely insane to be able to go and play a lot of these games, like basically pay like a Netflix subscription or a Game Pass
Sure.
subscription of that, right? And then go and be able to play the entire retro library of that console generation or something. I mean, would that be something that you would pay for?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I love some of the. I don't play them as much, but like I still, thanks to GOG, I play like the old X-wing games, the old TIE Fighter games, because that's my childhood. I was raised on that stuff, and I still love playing it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if it's old; it could still be a lot of fun.
Right. And I think, I mean, there's plenty of games that are out there that are, they stand the test of time, right?
Hmm.
They just because they're, 20 something years old, they're still just as relevant as, any game
Absolutely.
produced today. Speaking of subscription services, we did get a little bit more info out of Phil Spencer around Game Pass. One of the things that people have been curious about is, Game Pass as a business model, like how sustainable is that actually? And there's been some, I guess you could say, some thoughts around it being um, not super sustainable.
Hmm.
It's The service itself is basically just burning a hole in Xbox's pocket, which, according to Phil Spencer,
Yeah.
not the case. Apparently, it's actually doing very, very well from. He says, "quote Game Pass is doing very well from a business perspective and a creative and engagement perspective." I would agree with that. I think that
Hmm.
with the amount we talk about it on this show, I think it's
Yeah, I don't think anyone on our podcast is going to claim that Game Pass is a bad thing.
no, no, not at all. I
We're
mean,
pretty universal on this one.
right. I mean, between giving out Game Pass subscription prizes and how much
Right.
we talk about how great Game Pass is, I mean, that's no surprise. I mean, and to this day, I really do believe that Game Pass is, in fact, one of the best gaming services that exists
Hmm.
out there right now. Um,
Absolutely.
we've used it countless times for our book clubs, or if you're getting saddled up to play some Halo or something like that, or if you've been playing Age of Empires, I've been playing all that stuff on, through Game Pass. So
Right. And
we're
there
not
you
even
go, Matt.
sponsored. Yeah, we're not even sponsored by Game Pass, and we talk,
All the time.
yeah, we talk it up like crazy.
Turns
I don't
out
know.
when we really like something, we're going to talk about it a lot.
I know. It's almost like we have a whole podcast about talking about things we really, really like. And it turns out Game Pass is one of those things. So, Phil, if you're listening, please hook us up with some love. We would greatly appreciate it. All right.
Absolutely.
But that's what we have as far as Phil Spencer goes. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that before we move on? Maybe like his retirement or Game Pass or what you
Eh,
think of NFTs or
no, it's a very, I mean, he has such a, I would say, a common sense approach to it. Like it's that vision you would always prefer someone working in the industry would actually have, but you always kind of, you're so used to the EAs and the Activisions that you just kind of get jaded away from it.
mm-hmm.
To hear it come from him, you do kind of see like, no, he cares about this stuff. He wants us to enjoy it and of course make money, but he understands that they're not mutually exclusive. They can make a lot of money and give us what we want.
Right. Yeah, they can still provide a good service and we can still be happy with the service
Yeah.
that they provide. And it's not just feeling like we're getting ripped off or that, the executives at some gaming publishing company can get away with
Right.
threatening murder.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get into that.
Right. But before we get into that,
Yes.
to transition out of Phil Spencer, we do have a little bit of Xbox news that we get to talk about. So the first up, Xbox Cloud Gaming, now available for consoles and Game Pass Ultimate subscribers.
I just used it today.
I was going to say, have you tried it?
It worked out ridiculously well. It was insane.
What did you play?
It was to get an Xbox gaming reward. What game was that? Oh, do I really have to admit what game it was? Because I really don't want to now.
I kind of want to know.
Disney Adventures.
Nice.
Hey, I didn't want to install
it. Shame.
But you had to get 50,000 coins in the game to get your Game Pass reward. So I loaded, it had the cloud icon next to it, hit play, and it pretty much loaded up immediately and was right there. Like, perfect. This is awesome.
Right. Hey, that's great. And so, yeah, I mean, what did you play it on?
It was on my Series X.
Okay.
The little guy right over here.
Gotcha. Pat. But I mean, hey, if you don't have a Series X,
that's true.
Doesn't matter. You can still use Xbox Cloud and play new games on your Xbox One. Hopefully, this will help with future console generations of not having to constantly be backporting things and developing for multiple generations of consoles, because that seems to have taken quite a bit of a toll on games that have been trying to do that.
One, as games get bigger, it's nice knowing I don't have to sit there and worry about, man, do I really need to get a new hard drive expansion for my Xbox?
That's
true.
I
could just cloud game from it and every Game Pass game, and that cuts out a decent chunk of the games I play already. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll probably when Halo Infinite fully launches, I'll probably just leave it a cloud game. I probably won't bother installing it.
There you go. Yeah, I'm kind of curious how well I suppose like on a wired, are you on a wired connection with your Xbox?
Yeah.
Okay. So it probably performs pretty well. I'm curious as to how well it performs on like, a wireless network or like like an LTE network or something. Yeah. I haven't tried it. I think Matt has, but he is not here.
The biggest question I have is some people still, unfortunately, a lot of people, unfortunately, have data caps. And what's the data usage kind of look like with that kind of stuff? So I'll be interested to see how that performs over time.
Yeah, that was something that when we had a long time ago when we were chit-chatting about before Stadia was released, what that was going to look like. That was one of our big concerns is, I know that Mike is using it, but I'm kind of curious what that data looks like. And with more ISPs offer, putting up data caps on your service, I can see that being a really big problem pretty quick. I'm kind of curious if maybe I'll try that as an experiment at some point and just kind of see
Try to
how
track it a little bit.
track the data and see how much that actually uses and see if it's kind of worth it to, if I can beat a game in the time that it takes me to beat a game, save me the download of having to download
Right.
it. You know what I mean?
Well, and I haven't tried it yet, but I'm also interested in trying out multiplayer games and to see if there's any noticeable lag on inputs when it really, really matters.
Right.
Because that's the one thing I'm hesitant to do is play a multiplayer game with it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I think yeah, for a while I would probably stick to single player games just because especially if it's I mean like multiplayer is kind of one thing. If I wouldn't play like ranked Halo or anything like that
Right.
on cloud just for the sake of eliminating variables.
Right. The last thing you need is some type of millisecond input lag and gets you killed.
Right. All right. Other news related to Xbox, I believe Sarah Bond just got done with an interview with GQ. Um, Sarah Bond, celebrating 20 years of Xbox, talked a little bit about Game Pass as well, and how the early days of Game Pass was originally some kind of a rental service, which is kind of interesting. Um, what are your thoughts about this? This was there. There isn't a whole lot to this other than this was originally what they were thinking about
Right.
offering for Game Pass before it became sort of a I don't know, like a what would you call it, like a digital retailer, but a
Yeah.
subscription retailer? I don't know.
Well, it's like it sounds like it was the original plan is for what Netflix used to be,
Yes.
except I think it sounds like it was still going to be all digital. It'd just still be a rental service.
Right. They wouldn't package little discs in an
Yeah.
envelope and mail them out to you.
Yeah, which for our
Anybody
younger
remember that from
audience,
yeah. Netflix
that's
used to do that.
yeah, that used to be a thing.
Yep. I remember
That's
when the
weird.
the streaming service used to be an afterthought with
Yep.
Netflix. Yep.
Um so yeah, I can understand that that's where it used to be. And then they realized, well, it sounds like publishers pushed back and said, no, that does not work for us. And now it's a full-on streaming service. Basically, it's more like modern Netflix to an extent, not the same entirely, because now it is like modern Netflix completely, because now you can even stream the game.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like from this interview it sounded like the Xbox team had a lot of resistance when going to publishers about the idea of Game Pass.
Yeah.
Um, this is something. So what Sarah said, she said there were like no way. Yeah, they were like no way Game Pass is going to devalue games. Yada yada yada. Um, and so they were experimenting with older titles to as like a proof of concept to the publishers as to how this was going to work out because yeah, I guess the publishers got a little bit of a tight butthole when they mentioned that they weren't going to be like selling games directly, or this was going to be a Netflix like subscription model like you said.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, and what's kind of neat is because of the Game Pass model as it stands. So I don't know how many people have actually dug into it, or if you've dug into it yourself, but every Game Pass game gives you a link with which to go buy the game with, I think, 10% off or something like that. Which,
Mm-hmm.
since Game Pass also tells you when a game is going to leave, if it's something you really enjoy, you could just jump in there, buy it at a discount.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely helps promote buying some of these games down the road. Unless
Right.
it's a Microsoft game, in which case, yeah, why would you ever buy it?
Yeah, and that brings up a really interesting stat that she brought up during this interview too, is that she mentions that roughly like back in the day 75% of a game's revenue used to be made within like the first 2 months of release. So you had your pre-orders and your day one sales and things like that, and kind of trickling out beyond that. She says now that revenue is spread out way longer, like, you
Hmm.
know, 2+ years you're going to be making revenue off of this game. Probably even longer. I mean, I think, if you're thinking about like the various sales and things like that, something like even Stardew Valley still sells copies to this day. That
Right.
that game was released almost 10 years ago. Like,
That's insane to think about.
I know,
That
right? That
I
game
feel
is
old.
old. Yeah, that game is old and it still sells. That's what's crazy. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting tidbit about Game Pass since we talk about it so much.
Yeah.
So you might have to fill me in a little bit on this one. We got information about a motorized rotating Xbox button.
Yeah. So this was part of the initial. I remember hearing about this initially, that it could be a thing or something they were looking into. But basically, the Xbox One X, because it was designed to be such a premium level device, they
Hmm.
were initially thinking about having the Xbox icon itself rotate as if you put the console up on its side, so it's always facing the right direction,
Oh, weird.
right?
So what was the point of that? Just to make it look cool, or?
Yeah, basically. So it always had, so you don't have that weird, like, if I tip my Series X on its side, because if I actually put it with my TV, it's the only way it fits. The Xbox logo is on its side.
Hmm.
So it's not as photogenic, I guess. It honestly, it strikes me as a very, as a fanboy of this company, sounds like a very Apple thing to do. Like, we need to over engineer this because it'll look cooler and sell the product.
It's gotta look cool. What's the
Hmm.
point of selling something if it doesn't look cool?
But I'm glad they ended up deciding not to bother with it, because yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I can't imagine it really hurt sales or even hurt. I don't know. I don't know if anyone really thought about it too much. I'm sure there was one design engineer that's like, guys, it keeps the logo upright. And everyone else is like, yeah, but and
Okay.
for like those three influencers that probably care and the rest of them don't care at all, like, who's it really for? And even though it wouldn't have cost a lot when you measure it out with the amount of units they sold, oh my god, that would have been expensive to do.
And I can imagine that being one of the first things to break on an Xbox too.
Exactly. And
It's
then
like,
it's the
oh, my
power
butt.
button.
Yeah, my power button doesn't rotate anymore. That's so lame.
So yeah, it's a weird little tidbit, but console design, I would love to get a full, and this is why I'm really excited. Last week we talked about the Xbox documentary. I'm really excited for that documentary because I would love to hear about what went into the design process of the console,
Right.
because that's gotta be a conversation, like a
Oh,
really
I'm
good
sure.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that documentary is going to be I think a lot of people are really excited to watch that. I mean, myself included. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been kind of an Xbox fan, since the original. We kind of talked about that last episode. Um, so and I just love kind of those behind the scenes looks at like the development of how they ended up,
Right.
what the struggles that they went through to get this thing out the door, and technical problems, things like that they had to technical challenges that they have to overcome. It's good stuff. Like, it'll be
Hmm.
great. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
So that's going to close out pretty much everything Xbox except for one minor little detail. It wouldn't be a Campfire episode in November of 2021 if we didn't talk about Halo at some point, but we will get to that in a little
Yeah.
bit. First, what we're going to get into is, over the last, what would you say, 2 weeks, we've had launches of, Call of Duty Infinite, Battlefield 2042, GTA
I mean,
trilogy, the definitive trilogy,
Call of
Halo's
Duty. You mean
Vanguard.
Halo Infinite? You
What did
said
I
Call
say?
of Duty Infinite.
Oh, I'm sorry. Call of Duty Vanguard, Halo Infinite, multiplayer,
Yeah.
and then Battlefield 2042, and so on and so forth. Um, Definitely think these games are not done. There's a lot of games on this list that were not complete. So we're gonna dive into a little bit of Battlefield 2042's rough launch, and start discussing a little bit about what the hell is going on with a lot of these games because holy crap. Have you seen some of these reviews
Oh yeah.
on
And I have been playing Battlefield 2042 because I did buy the game.
okay.
That's I mean, so I'm gonna not to excuse it, but I'm gonna say remind people right off the bat, Battlefield games always launch poorly.
Yes.
It
That is true.
that never fails. This one does feel less ready than any other previous title. I will definitely give it that. Now, it does seem like a lot of the issues I have been hearing about seem either crossplay related or maybe computer PC related. I can't say computer because Macs aren't involved in that. But it's got issues. I posted a screenshot, or yeah, my own screenshot on our Discord where
Yeah.
I spawned on a tank, one of our tanks, and it was under the map, and we were stuck. We couldn't shoot anybody. A guy tried to use a grapple to see if it would get him out because we were under it by about 20 feet. So we couldn't even try to like latch onto something and get out. We were just constantly swimming, and that was it.
So
So
you had to like force kill
yeah,
yourself or something and
we had
respawn
to
somewhere else.
do the redeploy, which counts as a death on your part. But and I've seen things about buildings don't have their hitbox, so you just fly right through it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some Shroud, the streamer Shroud has a pretty famous video about that where he's flying an airplane and he's not flying through them, but he's kind of just like the collision on the airplanes is
Yeah,
so forgiving that he's like bumping into buildings and just kind of bouncing off of stuff and not taking any damage.
it's yeah, it has problems.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's stuff that can be fixed, but realistically, this game probably should not have come out for until probably early next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people on Steam would agree with you. I think this what is the I want to see what the ratio is on this thing. See if I can
Oh,
see
it's
that.
not
But
good. I haven't.
it is a mostly negatively reviewed game. Um, with I was just kind of scrolling briefly here through some of these comments, and I mean,
Mhm.
some of them are kind of funny, some of them are pretty serious. I mean, there's serious reviews that people are like, this game is not finished. It plays like it's not finished. Um, of course, there's the meme of it's Battlefield 20 to 42 FPS. Um, but I mean, a lot of people talk about like just a ton of missing features.
Yeah, there's some
That
really
is
weird ones.
right. And there's just the poor optimization. Hitboxes are broken. I've seen videos of that too, where people are, you can clearly see that they're hitting people and it's not registering any hits whatsoever, or you get like
Yeah.
weird collision problems where you have like a hill that kind of slants like this and you'll be shooting right here but it detects the collision like right here, and so you're just basically shooting into ground and you can't see. um the it doesn't seem like this is much of like necessarily like a review bombing. It's more so that people
No.
really are just pissed
Yeah.
because this game is not done.
Yeah.
I have not had a chance to play it yet. I'm playing a much different broken game, but when I do get around to it, I will be happy to talk about it with you at some point just
Oh yeah.
to kind of get our I don't know, just kind of have a back and forth on how we feel about it. I mean, how much have you played it so far?
I'm up to level six, level
Okay.
seven, maybe.
Have you
So
played on any of the have you done anything like the hazard zone or the
I have
portal
not.
or
Hazard Zone. I'm gonna wait until I can get a group of people to play it. Like if you get on or some other guys get on, because Hazard Zone is a team based. It's teams against other teams, and I'm not really game to play with randos for something like that.
sure.
Um, and Portals, I just haven't had the time to sit down and play it. They do have this really weird issue. So I played it a tiny bit today, and the first two matches I tried to join, I joined and they were immediately over. So
Oh,
there's nothing like I would assume most games you would have put something in place that if the score or if the timer is at a certain point, maybe don't try to load it. because yeah, I literally back-to-back games, and because it doesn't have a persistent lobby, I then get dumped back to the main screen. I'll get some XP for it, of course, and then I have to try to do it all over again. And I'm waiting to find another match. And it's like, well, this is a waste of my time.
Hmm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of complaining about match related stuff as well.
Hmm.
People talk about how, I remember this being an issue with Battlefront as well, is that because you can't really pick, you just kind of get
Right.
thrown into a matchmaking. A lot of the time you end up on a fresh server, which means you start at the beginning of the map rotation, which means you're playing the same map a
Oh yeah, I've
lot.
done that a ton.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with Orbital and what is the snow map breakage, I think it's called.
Okay.
And those two I've become super familiar with because it's all I've played so far.
Right. And that's something that's disappointing because there's
Right.
something that I really like is like having that server browser, being able to pick what maps you want to play or what size of maps you want to play. And
Hmm.
that seems
Well,
bizarre.
and okay, so for I guess I should probably say for people who don't know, persistent lobby is when you basically move match to match with the same group of people, and some dropping in, some new people come, some dropping out, some new people coming in, et cetera, et cetera. But generally, it's the same people. And one of the really cool things about a persistent lobby is you can end up being grouped in with some people that you actually do connect with, you actually have some fun with, and you guys just keep on going. You don't have to
Hmm.
worry about like trying to find them after the fact. Well, that's gone. I now have to track them down, figure out what system they're on because it might not be Xbox, it may be PlayStation or maybe PC. It's not that easy anymore.
Hmm.
So by putting that burden on me and not having an easy way for me to connect with people and keep going with people, it kind of hurts that sense of community you can get.
Right. And I mean, that's one of the most important things about playing an online game is, if you're getting that sense of community, I mean, it's one thing to just kind of just stomp your way through matchmaking, go, in and out of matches and not
Right?
really give a shit. But yeah, I mean that's kind of half the fun is meeting people online and, being able to play with some of the people you actually like playing with because they were fun to play with and not toxic or mean
Not just saying curse words the whole time or other words that
or
I would never repeat.
talking about your mama or something.
Hmm.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, that's a bummer because I was really excited for 2042. I mean, we saw that it was kind of broken in the beta, but
Yeah.
it sounds like it hasn't really changed much between the
No.
beta and now, which worries me a little bit about Halo, but we will get into that. Before we get into that, the next big broken game on our list of things is the GTA Definitive trilogy. It's broken.
It's
Yeah.
really broken.
Yeah.
Super broken.
A lot of people are reporting of different issues depending on what platform you're playing on and which version you're playing. I had linked a video from um, Modern Vintage Gamer not too long ago who kind of broke down some of this. It's a very, very good video. If you're listening to this now, be sure to go check out his video on the GTA trilogy. It's insightful because it kind of shows you that it's how weird of a state this game is in because you'll find things like I don't know, like some of the things that were highlighted in the video that were broken were like particularly the rain.
The
The
rain
rain in
is,
the games is really,
yeah.
really busted where it's like, you'll be walking underneath a bridge or something like that, and the rain just falls right through the bridge. Or there's weird occlusion problems where
Hmm.
the rain will be falling over the ocean and it will actually fall behind the water of the ocean but land on the beach in front of you.
So ridiculous.
It looks really bizarre. Now I've heard that this was a lot of people were talking about how this is based off. I don't remember if this was a rumor, but it was based off of like a mobile port of some kind.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So
How much do you know about that?
so the developer of the remasters is the developer of the mobile games.
Okay.
So when they came out on iOS and I assume Android as well, I don't know for certain, it's the same developer. And
Got it.
everything suggests that the assets are all everything's just reused from that version because the rain is exactly the same. Because a
Mm,
mobile device can't handle, occlusion and that kind of stuff. That wasn't designed to handle it, especially back in what would that have been 2013.
sure.
They weren't that advanced.
So this is
So
almost like a port of those
it's a port of a
shoddy mobile
bad port.
games.
Yep.
Ooh,
Yes. And it
that's
shows
rough.
everywhere. So
Okay.
and it's really rough. One of my favorite ones I was watching outside Xbox and they were playing San Andreas because it's on Game Pass and they didn't have to put money into it. And if you get on an ATV in San Andreas and you look behind and it allows you to go into the first person mode and you look behind you, it's just CJ's head
Yeah,
covering the center of the camera and it's just utterly ridiculous.
I've seen that one. That one's pretty. That's pretty funny.
It's like how do you not catch this kind of stuff? This is fairly basic stuff and I can see it happening in mobile, but I'm guessing it because of how the camera is situated, it his head is still there, so it just you see it. They didn't hide it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't
And I
move
mean,
the camera behind him.
right. And I mean, kind of going in line with the whole idea of, preserving old titles and things like that. People were really pissed because Rockstar had removed the classic games. Like, you can't purchase the original copies
Yeah.
anymore. So even if you wanted to play GTA 3, San Andreas, or Vice City,
Tough.
tough titties. Yeah, like
Yep.
that's like you're out of luck because they ripped them off the store. Now, since recording this episode, they have put them back on the store.
Mhm.
They said that they are going to return to the store, which is good. Um, but
What they should do. I mean,
yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. So they claim that they have fixes along the way for a lot of this stuff. Sorry to those of you who did buy this and are being affected by a lot of the issues with this. I'm sure you're pretty pissed about it, but I don't know. So we were talking about um, kind of segueing a little bit. We were talking about that, how this made it out the door. They have a quote from, there's a quote from Rockstar right here. It's quote, the updated version of these classic games did not launch in a state that meets our own standards of quality or the standards our fans have come to expect. No shit. Like,
right?
oh my God. Like, what I don't understand is, yeah, like, if this doesn't meet your standards of quality, how are you checking for these standards of quality? Like, what is it passing? You know what it means is that they shoved it out the door to hit a
Oh
release
yeah.
date. Yeah.
Yeah, someone at Rockstar rubber stamped the developer's work and just pushed it out the door because they had a deadline to make.
Right. They had a deadline to make, and they were probably really behind because of COVID stuff, and the
Mhm.
port was already bad. And I'm sure they didn't have a good game plan for this release, and they thought, everything's going to be fine.
Right. Just
It's
shove it
going to be
out. People
GTA
won't care.
trilogy. People are going to buy it anyway. And it turns out they did buy it, and they're not very happy with it. So,
Well, and frankly, they made I mean, as the gamer, I appreciate them doing this, but from their perspective, I'm sure they will say they made a mistake by putting it on Game Pass because a bunch of us could see it for free and
hmm,
knew we were not going to go buy that game.
right. Yeah. I mean, I could go, I, I don't remember. I think I still have Vice. I think I have Vice City on Steam. I
I
don't
have
think they ripped that away from me, so I think I still have it. But
I just looked it up on my Steam account because I have Vice City and San Andreas, and they're both sitting in my library still. They're not downloaded, but
woo,
I can get them right. Woof.
don't even need to buy it. I don't even care. Sounds like it's garbage.
Right. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out. Maybe they'll get an update or something, but I
Well,
don't
I'm
know.
sure that I'm sure that they're just. But this is just such a weird trend, though, of games, releasing in such a bad state, and then just, okay, people will buy it, and then we'll patch it into a good state. I
Well,
mean,
this one feels like no one even like there was no QA to it because there's so many things that just don't make sense for why you would allow this to get out the door.
hmm,
Or you just kind of blindly did it and just were like, just trust the process. We hit a bunch of buttons. We let the AI kind of upgrade everything. So it should be fine.
yeah, it's just
It is frustrating.
it
It
that is
is.
very frustrating, and I don't know. All right, so moving on to the one that I'm sure you're really happy to talk about, Halo
Always.
Infinite.
Yeah.
Going to be talking about Halo Infinite again. You may be wondering why we're talking about this in the broken games with the rest of the broken games. Um, I mean, playing some of the multiplayer, it does feel a bit unfinished, I will say. Now that we've kind of gotten our hands on the multiplayer, and I put fair amount of hours into the multiplayer already, I definitely think that even with calling it a beta, it definitely like from what we've seen between the Battlefield beta and 2 weeks later, this is the beta, the launch of 2042. The betas do not change much
No,
from
it's not enough
the
time.
release. Yeah, they do not change that much. And I do think that the multiplayer is a bit rough currently. What do I mean by that? It's mostly I've had lots of client crashes. Um, they're
Okay.
missing a bunch of features, things like I think it's really ridiculous that we can't we don't have like a color picker for our armor. We have to unlock like the sets of colors, which I
Hmm.
think is really stupid because I like being able to customize, like even going all the way back to Halo 2, right? You're able to pick a color. I mean, I guess Halo 1 even had that where you could pick a color of your armor.
Hmm.
You can kind of do that to a degree, but most of the color scheming on the armor is locked behind like those
The battle pass and everything.
it's locked behind the battle pass and like those unlockable color
Yeah.
schemes, that you have like a color palette that your armor takes onto it. Um, I think the playlists are really, really lacking.
I haven't
Um,
even looked. I looked like once and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna just do quick play so I don't have to think about it.
right. Well, I mean, like, so I'm taking this in contrast of something that has some really cool tech, like like take Master Chief Collection. They have the
Hmm.
whole match composer tech,
Yeah.
which is amazingly cool because then you get to choose things like, yeah, I do want to play things like Oddball, Capture the Flag, and Slayer. You don't have any of those options
That's
in
true.
Halo Infinite. You literally get dumped into whatever the hell the game decides that you want to play. You don't get to vote on maps. That's been a standard feature for a lot
Well,
of Halo games in
it
multiplayer,
it doesn't do persistent lobbies.
and that too. It doesn't do persistent
So
lobbies either.
you can't vote on maps.
Well, I mean, even
I
like
guess I guess you mean like with your friends.
not even just that. Even going back to something like I think Halo 3, you were given a selection of like 3 maps and everybody in the
Hmm.
lobby would vote on what map they wanted to play.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
you don't even get really an option on even making a choice on what map you would want to play. The ranked playlists is literally only like MLG settings,
Hmm.
which I know there's a lot of people who are going to frown upon that because it's like if you want to just play standard Slayer or something or snipers or whatever, that's not there. Like, so I don't know. I mean, I could keep going on and on, but then this is going to be like a 2-hour episode of me bitching about
Well,
Halo.
let I do want to say this part. The fundamental game itself, not talking about the client side stuff at all. The fundamental game is a massive ton of fun. Like the multiplayer itself feels good.
Yeah, yeah. The gameplay feels fine. The gameplay feels pretty good. It feels very smooth,
Hmm.
and I mean, at the I guess at the end of the day, that's what really matters is that the gameplay feels good. But at the same time, yeah, like they've
Well,
taken away a lot of stuff
it yeah,
that's
it
been
feels like
pretty
they focus so much on making the gameplay feel right that they forgot about all that client the lobbying and all how that stuff kind of the customization stuff and how that works.
right. Yeah. And I was salty that they don't have my emblem as a usable emblem, even though they use it for the team emblems.
It finally dawned on me that maybe the reason I don't see the emblem I want to see in there might be because it's actually owned by Bungie and not 343. I
Oh,
want my marathon logo, god damn it.
oh yeah, you
But
don't
that is
have that.
definitely a Bungie owned item. So, oh
Hmm.
well.
So along with that, kind of going into some more Halo Infinite stuff. So Halo Infinite has gone gold officially as of when was this tweeted?
Earlier this was
It
it
was earlier this week, but
was it would have
or
been
no,
no,
it
it was
was.
late last week, I believe.
Yep, it was November the 19th. It has officially gone gold as of November the 19th.
It's either Friday or Saturday. I really should know that.
Mm-hmm. Um, so I guess that's a good thing. We did, however, while that was good news, we did get a little bit of bad news following up with that, in that co-op and Forge have been delayed,
Yep.
unfortunately, even further. So, we were a bit salty. Me and Matt were quite a bit salty about having to wait until, March to play co-op, because, like, co-op has been kind of a
Co-op.
ubiquitous thing for our
Yep.
Halo experience for the last 15 years or so. So it's disappointing, and now it's gonna be May. No, yeah, May 2022.
Yep.
So about 5 months after the release of the game, which is gonna be kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I'm a part of me. I mean, I'm obviously disappointed as well because yeah, that is my earliest memories of playing Halo is the co-op. But I'm wondering if some of that lobby, that same client side stuff that we were just talking about, is partially related to it, and them trying to fix it on the multiplayer side, so then it's ready on the co-op side. They're not just going to drop co-op in and then all of a sudden, hey, it drops you back to a main screen after every mission, because that would be super frustrating.
Yeah, my guess is so my thought on that is that with them kind of taking over this sort of open world gameplay style, that really shakes up how they're going to do the
Oh,
co-op.
I'm
And I
sure
think,
it messes with balancing like a madhouse.
yeah, so I think having that is going to introduce a lot of weird issues with the co-op that they haven't really had. I don't know, that they haven't figured it out yet. They haven't figured
Hmm.
out how they are going to do it, or they're still in the process of implementing it, or it's been kind of a second class feature. Um, and it really wasn't their priority to get that out the door, unfortunately. Hard to say what it is at the end of the day, but um, here's what Joe Staten has to say about it. Quote, "We can't commit to any hard dates right now because as we're seeing this multiplayer beta, other things might move up in the priority stack for us. If it turns out that the progression system just isn't working the way that we had intended, if we need to move some of these bigger rocks sooner, then we as a team will make those decisions and will clearly communicate to our fans why we are doing certain things." Which also kind of scares me a little bit because, yes, I mean, I mentioned how I feel like the multiplayer definitely feels kind of unfinished.
Hmm.
My guess is that something could potentially crop up and push co-op and Forge out even farther, and it's going to be even more of a bummer that it's just kind of keeps getting kicked
Right.
down the road.
I mean, I'll give them some credit with they're giving us a decent amount of heads up. It's not like it was a week away and they're like, oh, by the way, we're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving us a more notice to be like, look, and who knows, maybe this does show up sooner than we expected because multiplayer sure as heck did. Um, yeah, it does suck. At the end of the day, yes, it does suck. I am going to make this quick comment here because you can't actually see the notes for it. For those that don't know, Matt generally generates a list of notes for us right off the bat. His notes for the section were very colorful, and I may have removed some things. um, Matt, I'm sure everyone who listens to us knows Matt was not happy with any of this.
You should share some of the notes. I'm
I
now
wonder
kind of
if I can.
curious.
I wonder if I could pull them back. Oh, there has to be a versioning for this. I'll see if I could pull up the version while we're talking here.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to talk a little bit about, there's been some issues with the battle pass as well. Um, the battle People are not happy with the battle pass progression. A lot of people are saying it's really, really slow, really, really grindy. It's not very rewarding, mainly because a lot of the things. So the way that the battle pass system currently works is that you are given a series of levels. I think it's 1 to 99 or something like
It's
that.
something
Zero
like
to
that. Yeah.
Yeah, 0 to 99. Each level is 1,000 XP. You get to these levels by completing. You get this XP by completing challenges. These challenges could come in the form of, get 2 kills with the needler, get a triple kill, or play X number of matches on this map, play this way or that way, that sort of a thing. The problem, though, is that once you complete those daily challenges, you didn't really get any more. And
Yeah.
so you're kind of capped as to how much XP you can really get, and you're not really rewarded per match. And that's what a lot of people are complaining about, is that it's slow because they have to go out of their way to play things that they don't want to do so that they can keep up with the Joneses on their battle pass, so that everybody's not a gray suit Andy. It's kind of
Right.
that's just how it is right now, is that
It
everybody looks pretty much the same in a
it
different
does.
color.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um
So
yeah, Matt's exact. Oh wait, nope, he didn't have a comment for that one. Because yeah, his exact one of his comments I did remove is 343 I hates Halo fans. There's a lot of salt in here. Um uh Free to play multiplayer is more important because that will make us more money from its microtransactions and battle pass. And that's there's some other comments I'm not going to say in here.
that's all right.
But just to get an idea.
Matt needs to express, we haven't seen this
He
much emotion
does.
out of Matt in the 2 years we've been doing this podcast. He's got
Well,
to let it out.
and he's not. I'm enjoying. If you really want to get into those conversations with Matt, join our Discord where
Please.
I definitely try to talk him down quite a bit, but he definitely expresses himself there.
But yeah, so back to the battle pass.
Yep.
Yeah, back to the battle pass. The battle pass, they're looking at adding in per match rewards. So if nothing else, you'll still get XP and progression towards your battle pass for just playing the game. A lot of people say that like the 50 or so XP that you get per match is good, but not enough.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
It's still like, it takes a while for it to kind of make up for itself, with including doing the challenges. You don't make that much extra in the long term. So they 343 has come out and said that they're looking into how to basically do changes to this battle pass.
Yeah, I don't know if you just tie it. I think I've mentioned this before, but if they would tie it to like
Medals.
The medals are the cheap, easy way to do it. Just give them some value based upon the difficulty of getting them or whatever, and you'll pretty much set.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about this last episode or if this was in Discord. But we were
It's always tough to know.
Yeah, it's tough to know, because we at some point I remember mentioning like, you have the formula in Master Chief Collection. You have the product that's doing it correctly. Why not just do what that product is doing? Like, the funny thing is that Master Chief Collection from a product standpoint is much, much better than Halo Infinite. Now, granted, it's had, 6 years, 7 years of development.
It took time to get there.
Yeah. Master Chief Collection sucked at release. That's a fact. It really sucked at release. But over time, they have developed the tech to make it really, really good. My hope is that they borrow a lot more from Master Chief Collection, because they've learned, right? That team has learned their lessons of what people want, what people like, what progression, how the progression system works, and how that battle pass system kind of works. And I'm very happy with it. I think it's great. I don't know why the Halo Infinite team didn't take it and they wanted to kind of reinvent the wheel, but
yeah, it does seem weird.
What are you going to do? I suppose with the mention of the battle pass, the fracture event has started. So
I'm on level 2.
Yep. There's a special event going on now called the fracture event. You can get special cosmetics and unlocks and things like that. You get special challenges. There's a new Fiesta matchmaking, which a lot of the time feels very unfair because I always get stuck with the stupid repulsor and a plasma pistol. So bullshit.
The first one I got was the hammer, the gravity hammer, and the rocket launcher.
Wow.
So I was just dominating. The first match we played, or that I played, I had 15 kills and 2 deaths, I think.
Nice.
So yeah, I was running around a lot.
You're slaying.
Oh, it was so much fun. It's glory days right there.
But for the most part, that's what we got for Halo. The last bit of news the last bit of info that we got here is that we found out that the campaign is being tuned for normal difficulty instead of heroic. Think about that what you will. To me, I don't really care.
No, it's interesting where they find their baselines a little bit,
Hmm.
but I it at the end of the day, I can't imagine it's going to affect the gameplay massively.
Well, yeah, it's hard to know, right? I mean,
Right.
had you would
Well,
have told me they did that for the other Halo games, I would have believed you because at the end of the day,
right.
what difference does it make? It's
Yeah.
balanced the way it is.
I
Yeah.
will say there's a lot of people out in the press that have had access to the Halo Infinite so far, the actual campaign, as
Yep.
opposed to just the multiplayer.
Yep.
It's gotten, I mean, it definitely, people are saying it has some issues, but overall, it sounds like people are really enjoying Halo Infinite.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to see when we get it in 2 weeks,
Or if
3 weeks,
Microsoft wants to help us out,
2 weeks,
two
two
weeks.
weeks from today
Yep.
or
Not
tomorrow.
much longer.
2 weeks
Uh,
from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow. That's more their norm now.
Yep. All right. So that's going to leave it for the Halo news. That's going to leave it for the broken games business. We're going to be moving on. Um, this is something that Chris is actually, I'm sure, is very very excited
I'm
about.
so
You're a big
pumped.
Hitman fan, aren't you,
I am
Chris?
such a huge Hitman fan. I love the series, especially the new one.
All right. So then you're going to have to walk us through the Hitman 3 Year 2 roadmap that they have revealed.
Yeah. This news just came out this week from IOI about what they're doing for Hitman Year 2. Because so Hitman 3 came out this past year. It wraps up the Hitman storyline. Um, but they're not done with the game. They want to keep coming out with new stuff. They just did the season of Sin, which had contracts all based around each of the 7 deadly sins, which was a lot of fun to do. They did announce that throughout the course of the 3 game trilogy, um, over 50 million players have played Hitman, which is massive. It's the most successful game series that they've had so far of the Hitman series altogether. Year 2 will begin on January 22nd. And for those PC gamers that have been weirdly jealous of PlayStation for having VR Hitman, which I will say was a lot of fun, VR is coming to PC. The
Cool.
issue with it right now, so Hitman 3 on the PC is exclusive to Epic Game Store, which does not support virtual reality. So
Oh.
the platform, they have said platform is to be announced, which kind of makes me feel like it's going to come out on Steam at some point. And they're just tied up in legalese for why they can't say anything more than that for the time being, unless I guess Epic could start supporting VR, but Epic is so far behind on that stuff that I just don't expect it.
I mean, yeah, it could be one of two things, right? Is that Epic is now getting prepped to support more VR games,
Mm-hmm.
or IOI is looking to like basically wait out some kind of a contract that they had
Right.
with Epic, and then they can go to the Steam store, and then pff, there we go, you got your VR.
The idea of using a VR, so the limitation of VR on the PlayStation is you have to use your controller. It doesn't support the wands, which kind of makes
Mm,
sense. The wands are kind of limited in what they can do. But a modern VR set, like the Vive or the Oculus, man, I can't wait to walk around a world and just do whatever as Agent 47. It's gonna be super cool. But they're also working with Intel to get ray tracing onto the game as well. So that'll make Matt really happy. As it currently does not have it. Elusive Target Arcade is coming out. So elusive targets will actually remain as of right. In the past, it's always been you have your elusive target mission, and then after it's done, it's gone.
mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be persistent and something people can always just come back and play. So that'll be really fun.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
they've also said there's going to be new maps, new storylines, and new modes, but they haven't really told us what that means yet, what we're looking at yet.
So we
So
have a like a tentative date on when they are going to reveal this sort of information.
it's expected January 22nd is the expectation for at least some of the information will get revealed at that point. but they
Gotcha.
haven't past that. They're not talking a whole lot, just to let us know that, hey, we have not forgotten about the game. We're not done with the game.
But the 22nd is like the big date
That's the
that you're
big
looking
date.
out for.
Yep.
Got it.
So yeah, should be really exciting. I'm super excited about buying Hitman on another platform because I want to play VR
You
on
want
my
to do VR?
PC. I
Nice.
can't wait. It's so much fun.
Oh, VR is pretty fun. I love my VR headset.
Same here. Even though it's owned by Microsoft or Facebook, I try to ignore that part and just focus on the Steam connectivity of it.
But yeah, you're gonna be able to tap into the metaverse now, dude.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yep.
All
Yep,
right.
that's a thing.
That's a whole nother episode. So the last big bit of news that we have for you, the listener, today, not exactly a super happy topic, but
No.
we have more information about what's going on with Activision Blizzard. For those of you who have not been keeping up with this, earlier this year, Activision Blizzard was hit with a lawsuit from the state of California, talking about how the company is kind of fostering a culture of sexual harassment. Lots of heads have been rolling. Lots of people have been getting fired from Activision Blizzard. Bobby Kotick has said some very I don't know. A lot of people would say it as tone deaf sort of things to kind of quell this. Since then, we've had J. Allen Brack getting removed. He was replaced by Michael Neal and or Mike Ybarra and Jen O'Neill. I got the names mixed up. But since then, Jen O'Neill has also left in between that time and now, which was kind of weird. But now so that's the gist of it. But where we're at right now is that as people have been kind of digging up all sorts of stuff that's been going on with Activision Blizzard and how they've been fostering this culture, it's been reported that at one point, Bobby Kotick, the current head of Activision Blizzard, had threatened to kill one of his assistants, threatened to get one of his assistants killed. Or he was what was the quote? Is that he was quote going to have her killed. This isn't even yeah. So Activision says that this is characterized as inaccurate. Of course, they'll use a bunch of business language to make it sound a lot worse than it actually does. And this was kind of a bombshell because it just shows that even at the very, very tippy top of Activision Blizzard, there's a lot of wrong going on at Activision Blizzard. So a lot since that has been revealed, employees of Activision Blizzard have been staging walkouts. There's been a lot of people protesting at Activision Blizzard to, wanting Bobby Kotick to essentially be removed. You have investors who are pissed about this, who they want, Bobby Kotick to be removed. And of course, he's not going to fall for that right away. Like he's not going to be stepping down right away. Mainly because a lot of his board is his friends. That's been reported that he is very friendly with his board of directors, so they're not going to and they back him. They've stated that they back him in whatever he decides to do. So it's just kind of there's a lot of corruptness all the way up and down the chain at this company. So he says that, or at least he claims that he's going to consider stepping down if he can't fix a lot of the problems that are happening. They've stated that they're going to be implementing this zero tolerance policy, but I guess zero tolerance only applies when it's not to Bobby Kotick. So I don't that's just me being kind of salty about it, but
they've already said it won't apply to previous statements.
Right.
So
it won't apply to previous statements. But
if he can stay clean, I guess it won't apply to him, but I don't know who's holding him exactly accountable for it.
Exactly. And I think that's what's really weird about this is, it just goes to show you how, I don't know, how little everybody else has to kind of make decisions around the company when it's the very tippy top of the company that's the problem, right? When we were covering this Activision Blizzard stuff, we saw that it was a lot of management, executives were doing it. People were turning blind eyes to a lot of the problems that were happening. It was going from top to bottom, right? All the way down to the game development teams had some issues with these allegations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really troublesome is that nothing has really been done about it. Um, and this is in part why Jen O'Neill has stepped down. It was revealed in an email to an Activision lawyer that her intent to resign was basically saying that it was clear that the company would never prioritize the people in the right way. When she originally had left, she basically gave a very a very face friendly
Mm-hmm.
departure, like, oh yeah, this company's gonna go places, it's gonna be great, it's totally fine, yada yada yada. Well, that's not true. Apparently she and Mike Ybarra were not going to be on equal pay, and I think that was a big reason why she was going to leave, is that it was still, they still had unequal treatment, even though they were co-leads of Activision,
Right.
or co-leads of the Blizzard side of
Of the
things.
Blizzard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, replacing J. Allen Brack. So she was stated that, yeah, she was paid less than, she was supposedly paid less than her co-head. And quote, that she says, quote, I have been tokenized, marginalized, and discriminated against. So this is just a shit show all the way around. Like, no matter how, like, it's rough, man.
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard's had a rough several years. They can't have any wins at that company.
And it's, I mean, they're the board and Bobby Kotick are clearly just trying to weather the storm, assuming
Hmm.
that if they say the right things, realistically, there's nothing people can do to stop them, because the board and him have the majority of the shares. The individual investors don't have power. That's not
Hmm.
how this is going to work. And realistically, barring something, as consumers, there's not a whole lot we can do either, because at the end of the day, yeah, we might be able to just, if we stop just buying the product, we're not really hurting them that much. We're hurting the actual developers, the people on the ground that rely upon the bonuses that us buying things solves. Now, I mean, fortunately, at this point, I don't really buy much Activision Blizzard stuff, so I'm kind of,
It's
I
easy
can
to say that.
sidestep it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easy to boycott something you don't really care about.
Right. The new Call of Duty doesn't look super cool for me, so I don't really, that's about the last Activision, unless they come up with a new Tony Hawk game, which they somehow have decided that that's done. I yeah, it's really frustrating, because like, you want to do something that has an impact on it and that can solve this issue, but we're kind of stuck. We can
Yeah.
only complain about it and hope that the complaints bother him, but he has enough money. He doesn't give a crap.
Right. So I think what is really going to happen is that, what will really impact their decision making is how their bottom line is affected.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I mean, the only way that me as a consumer is going to be able to affect that bottom line, of course, is to just not buy their stuff. Again, it's been pretty easy to not buy a lot of Activision Blizzard's stuff because it has not been good. So it is what it is. But they do have quite a few cash cows that they can rely upon, things like what comes out of King, what comes out of, the Call of Duty that gets,
Right.
millions of copies every year. It doesn't even matter. With that, though, if you are going to affect their bottom line, what it seems like is that with these new revelations of Bobby Kotick, it's kind of stirred up some raising of eyebrows with other publishers and other
True.
industry figures. That could be, in my opinion, the way that Bobby Kotick would end up being forced to exit, is if he kind of severs business ties just by his reputation alone. If people start getting mad at Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo for working with Activision because they're working with Bobby Kotick, and they have to sever ties with Bobby Kotick, then his head is going to roll, even though his board of directors are probably buddies. Of course,
Right.
I feel like they're probably going to look out for the company's best interest in that regard, in terms of what it's going to do for them financially. They still want to make money, so they're going to want to just give him a nice severance package and then send him out to go destroy the next game company he's going to work for. It's not like
Well,
he's going to not find work. He's going to go
right.
ruin somebody else's company.
Yeah, you need to convince someone like Jim Ryan over at Sony to not pay for the exclusives that Sony gets for Call of Duty games and that kind of
Yep.
stuff. That's really where the attack needs to come from, to
Right.
try to force the change.
Right.
But then
And
again, how you do need to change the whole top of that. You got to cut that whole top off, board and everything.
yeah,
And I don't know how that happens.
I
Right?
don't know if we've ever seen anything like this before. This is
Not without
completely
shuttering a whole entity.
right. Yeah. I mean, like, really, I mean, yeah, starts from the top, right? Until you start replacing people up at the top who can foster a lot of this change and who
Yeah.
have the power to make these kinds of decisions, I don't think there's much that you can do.
I have the solution. Microsoft buys the whole thing,
They
cuts
empty it
off the
out.
top. Yep, empty it out, but you can still kind of keep the properties around.
That could be,
That'd be the easiest way to do it.
I suppose. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that is that I've noticed as well is that the stock price of Activision,
It's plummeting.
it is, yeah, that's easiest way to say it, is that it's plummeting. And at some point somebody could potentially look at the value of the company and then say, you know what, I'm gonna
Right.
buy it. Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna buy it,
This
and
is
I'm gonna
cheap.
we're just gonna nuke it from orbit, and then we're just gonna start over, but we're
Mhm.
just gonna
Hey, Jen
keep a
O'Neill, do
lot
you
of the
want to come back? We'll pay you your actual rate,
we're
and
gonna pay what we owe.
yep,
Yeah.
you can manage it your way.
Yep.
Think of the amazing things that could come out of that.
Yeah. So, and we've seen a little bit of how the other figureheads in the gaming industry, like Doug Bowser, Phil Spencer, have kind of looked at this. Again, it's kind of more with like a raised eyebrow. They say, well, it's very like corporate
Right.
speak. It's very like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so shocking. Oh, like probably is one of those worst kept secrets kind of a thing. Like,
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people knew about it. That's just, it was never public.
I mean, listeners, tweet at them. Tweet at Sony, tweet at Microsoft, tweet at Nintendo. Tell them they need to stop doing business or change their business or whatever.
Yep. Because I mean, once you start affecting the bottom line in that regard,
That'll change.
they're gonna have to force their hand, I suppose.
Yep.
That's the best you could do, I think.
Ugh, that's depressing.
It's depressing, but Activision Blizzard, I mean, is a depressing company. Now, I've never really been a fan of Activision for a long time. It's right up there with EA in terms of scumbagginess. Like, but the fact that they kind of brought my my favorite company Blizzard down with them has been it's been crappy. And that's only kind of a half truth, right? Blizzard's problems have stemmed pretty
They've had
far
their own
back.
issues. Yeah.
They've had their own issues before Activision was even involved, but Activision certainly didn't help.
No.
Well, that's all we got. That's for the big chunk of our news. That is what we have. Sorry to end it on such a sour note, but we do have a little bit of quick stuff for you, a little bit of kindling to kind of tie it all off, and a little bit of just maybe a little bit of discussion on something a little bit more positive, so we don't leave a bad taste in your mouth leaving this episode. So for this quick rapid fire kindling, to start off with, one of my games that I've been playing quite a bit, Star Citizen. Yes, it is still a meme. It has hit $400 million raised and is still in alpha, and it is going to be an alpha for the foreseeable future. But patch 3.15.1 has dropped, which was pretty cool. It added in an inventory system and a medical system, which has been actually pretty cool. You can spawn in a medical bed and you can heal yourself up from. You can send out beacons for players with medical stuff to come and rescue you when you die and things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the personal inventory system is very cool. Your ships now have inventory. You can load up guns and stuff like that into your ship, and it just gets to sit there. It helps with their new persistence, their long-term persistence system. So, when you store your ship and you bring it back out, your guns are all still there, all that good stuff. It's really cool. With that, they have the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo going on right now, which means that you get to play for free from November 19th, which was a couple days ago, to December the 1st. So if you're remotely interested in Star Citizen, I recommend giving it a try just to see where it's at. No need to buy anything right now. All right, moving on. We got Kojima Productions is going to be an LA division dedicated to TVs, movies, and music. That should be really interesting.
Yeah, it's not horribly shocking with what Kojima likes to make.
He likes to make a lot of, I guess you could say, all of those things
Yeah.
in video games.
Mm-hmm.
TV, movies kind of being the same thing, but yeah. So look out for what they are going to do. 6 Days in Fallujah has been delayed. This is kind of a controversial Iraq war based game. One of those military sim kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
Delayed to Q4 of 2022. Studio just needs more time to complete that. Saints Row 4, originally slated for February the 25th, is now coming out next summer. So if you were looking for that in Q1, you will have to wait till probably Q2 or 3. Marvel's Avengers, the Spider-Man DLC, has no story missions. Bummer. And designed so that the PC and Xbox gamers won't miss out on the story. The story is being presented via audio logs. I don't really know what that means. I don't play Marvel's Avengers.
It's just a regular little pickup item you can find in the universe. So they'll have unique story or audio log things that'll pop up in their world. And that's about it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, ray tracing for the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. So there you go, Matt. It is now Matt compatible. Xbox Series S owners have the option to turn on the uncapped frame rate to allow them to run between 30 and 60 frames. So some technical patches. Those are kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, the Halo TV show, which we have seen a slight teaser trailer to the trailer during the Xbox celebration. The full-length trailer will be shown at the Game Awards, so be sure to look out for that during the Game Awards, December 9th. That's right. That's the right date, right? December 9th?
Yeah, no, it's December 9th. Yeah.
And that is it. Yeah. So be sure to catch that. I'm going to be looking out for that because I kind of want to see where this is going.
Right.
And that is all that we have. So before we close it out, like I said, we just want to make sure we don't leave a bad taste in your mouth because we are now approaching the season of giving and the season of giving thanks if you are a United States citizen, living, or if you're a member of the United States. I'm sure all you Russian listeners out there have no idea what I'm talking about, but it is currently approaching a United States holiday coming soon on Thursday. By the time you listen to this, it will have already passed, but typically what we do is we just kind of think about and give thanks for the things that we have during this time of year. So I don't know. What do you think, Matt? I called you Matt. I miss you, Matt. Why aren't you here?
Oh man.
All right. So what, Chris, are you thankful for in gaming? What makes you thankful in our gaming sphere?
Kind of the sense of community at this point. Like it's really even including our own community on for the Campfire Gaming Podcast Discord and all that. Like it's fun to be able to chat with people again. The pandemic took away so much. So it's nice to be able to have found this and to find some other communities as well where it's not toxic.
Right.
You can just talk with people.
Right. No, I mean, I would agree with that. I think that one of the things I'm definitely most thankful for when it comes to gaming is I don't know, just I know it feels really hard to be thankful with a lot of the news that we've been presenting as of late, and the amount of saltiness and negativity, and it's just that's kind of how it is sometimes, right? But I do appreciate the community that we have and the community of especially like the Halo community, right? The Halo community has been very, very good to me, and I really appreciate that they've been around. I can't wait for the esports scene to start getting picked up for Halo Infinite. I'm grinding out that ranked because every time I watch professional matches of Halo, it just kind of gets me fired up to want to play some more and all that good stuff. But and I'm of course thankful for the Campfire Gaming Podcast as well.
Of course.
This has been a real treat for these last couple of years to be spending time with you folks talking about news and games and all this fun stuff. So hopefully you guys all have a safe, fun, and enjoyable Thanksgiving. Please don't get trampled during Black Friday. We would like for you listeners to return and keep giving us more numbers.
In fact, while you're waiting in line, share the podcast with the people next to you.
That's a good idea.
And then wonder, why don't you just shop online? It's so much easier.
And that too. So with that, I will bid you guys adieu. Be sure to visit our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. Find our Discord, join us, talk to us. We would like, of course, next week is going to be our book club episode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested in being part of the book club, you have at least 1 week to finish 12 minutes, which is our current book club game. It's very short, very easy to get done in the course of a week.
We believe in you.
And then we will be moving on from the book club from there. Of course, be sure to follow our Twitter at Camp Game Pod and our Instagram at Campfire Gaming Podcast. Like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And with that, we'll see you guys next time around the campfire. Happy Thanksgiving.